Here are my headlining predictions. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that the world debt will finally be erased. And I will tell you also that all religions are going to become one. And the reason I believe that is, well, if you really want to know the truth, I always did believe that the angels and the God we worship were actually star travelers. We're eventually going to have to colonize other galaxies and heavenly bodies, probably in the same manner that I believe that we were colonized by extraterrestrials, possibly. Possibly God was a star traveler from a far distant binary star system, and oxygenated the Earth, you know, and did some DNA engineering with the lower primates, and we are possibly the result of that. And possibly that's why we go in these little buildings called cathedrals and churches and mosques and pray to this one God. But should this God return, as it says in the book of Revelation, the Lord shall return with his hosts and there will be 1,000 years of peace, all of the nations, all of the religions will then be one. Judaism, Islam, Catholicism, because suddenly we'll say, oh, this is what we were worshiping. And so all of the fighting and the warring factions will be no more. There's no need for it. Hope prevails. Don't think of it as an ending, but as a new beginning, a new world order. I can assure you that there'll be a lessening of political tensions. That aging will no longer be taboo, thanks to a new rebranding campaign, which will actually make aging seem desirable, as difficult as that is to believe. And thanks to a new genetic breakthrough that's going to actually slow down the aging process. And this I predict for sure. I mean, in a sense, Stephen Hawking, the great physicist, said that if all creation, including Earth, the universe, all galaxies, were heading toward an immense black hole, it would contract and be shot out like a cannon being shot out of a cannon through a massive white hole on the other side, which would reverse the process. So aging would actually be the same thing. I think with the manipulation of the DNA, we could reach an age of, say 75 or 80, and then click, just like turning a key, we start to reverse. And we grow younger and then disappear back into the egg and the sperm again. You know, with the recent reconstruction of Ground Zero in New York, I predict that wonderful changes are at hand. New Yorkers will actually inspire the world to accomplish and achieve great things. Their image, their sense of, how do I put this, their former sense of arrogance, and that goes for all great countries and cities, whereby we think we're indestructible and we have a tendency to be a little bit arrogant.
Like the Romans, perhaps.
Like the Romans, and every great civilization has a tendency to destroy itself from within. In this case, we let our guard down, and it was a rude awakening, but from this will spring great things for New York, and New York will be the symbol of strength, courage, and virtue. A genius is born. No one has seen a child like this since the days of Mozart, Michelangelo, Einstein, Beethoven. Roll over Beethoven and tell Tchaikovsky the news. You knew that was coming, of course. This child will be well versed in science, mathematics, literature, art. He will contribute great things to the world. Trust me, and he's only the first of a whole generation to come. In light of the Chernobyl disaster years ago, if you remember the nuclear plant that erupted, I had said at the time a cloud of radiation will pass around the world, which will create a lot of new diseases, especially brain tumors and the like. But also, it will genetically revolutionize the DNA, and you're going to see an entire new generation of geniuses. Now these kids, by the time they're 4, will make Mozart look like an imbecile. I see hundreds of planes loaded with money and gifts and peace, targeting many large cities. The good times are nearly upon us. One thing I know for sure is that the world debt will be erased completely, because the wealthier countries, the West, will forgive any debts owed to the defeated countries, i.e. the Desert Storm War, the Iraqi War, the oppressed countries that owe billions of dollars to the United States and Canada. And I feel a sense of just a great sense of invigoration and work and development and buildings going up, and I think it's going to be a very fabulous time economically, at least for the next 10 years. World leaders are going to get together and figure a way to clean up the 7 seas, which are rapidly becoming polluted with nuclear waste and human waste. And this will be done soon, because if it isn't, it'll be too late. Well, actually, they're going to make a supreme attempt to clean up the 7 oceans, because they're filling up with toxic pollution, radiation fallout, nuclear fallout, chemicals, waste of all kinds, human and otherwise, that if we don't do something very shortly, it'll be too late. All mankind shall perish. That Osama bin Laden will be captured and dragged kicking and screaming to the United States, where his supporters will try to rescue him, all in vain. As you know, last year I predicted that Osama bin Laden would be captured, shot, killed, wiped out, expunged, in short, wouldn't be around anymore. But instead, of course, I was slightly off, so they captured his second in command. But I predict they'll catch him next, and around February 2004, there'll be a final outcome, denouement, to the bin Laden problem, whereby they bring his body or his remains back to New York, whereby some of his followers will try to extricate the body or remains, but to no avail. But there will be quite a violent coup or attempt or explosion in New York City as they try to do that. Actually, it'll be a diversion, but it'll fail miserably, and that'll be the end of Osama bin Laden problem. Now, the war may not be over, but I assure you Saddam Hussein will be found shot to death, assassinated by a woman, of course backed by U.S. forces. That the future of armed combat will rely on unmanned vehicles and aircraft, and this will put the United States at the forefront of any future combats. Finally,